This conference will now be recorded.
Test 1, 2. She would tell everybody, everything.
Y'all good down there? All right, very good. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. I have a couple things that I'd like to add. First, I think, since we obviously have some people interested in the transfer station, I'd like to add a public comment after number 4. And it's not a discussion, but maybe we can get some answers to some people's questions. The other one is we need to add to 7A. And this is, I want to call high school fireworks. It's pertaining to the football team. Anybody else? What else do we have to add?
Mr. Chairman, just for numerical order, is public comment 4A? Is that your
4A.
preference?
4A.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
That seems reasonable. Anybody else have anything we need to add?
No, sir.
What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, anybody have any general public comment? General public comment. We're going to do this 3 times, so we're going to have a lot of time for public comment. Livingston is lots of public comment online. Zero public comment online. All right, we're going to do it again. Constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. Faye, how's the planning commission doing?
Busy.
All right. Is that the report?
Having some interesting things, big things happening in the county in the future, so.
All right,
Trying to work out some of the kinks.
good. Mooney?
Does he need a mic? Does he need a mic?
Yeah, we can, let's hand the mic around. That's the easiest way to do this.
Another mic.
Video problems. Yes, ma'am.
So a couple things. All the units have been replaced now at the animal shelter,
You talking HVAC units?
HVAC units.
Yes, sir.
So I have to get those inspected. After that, they will be done.
All right.
We cambered the sewer lines at the courthouse. Didn't find anything obviously wrong. Everything looked like pretty good, so we jetted it out. Make sure all those were nice and clean, and so far we haven't had any problems. Sheriff Department, we're having a few problems with the stainless steel toilets that was originally put in there. They're leaking. So what's happening is the water's leaking out of it, causing a smell in the building. I actually met a rep there today to talk about replacing those. Meanwhile, I took one to the machine shop to see if they can repair it, to see what cost that was in a timely manner, so we can get that taken care of.
All right. The machine shop's just going to TIG weld it back together.
Yes,
And for everybody's knowledge, a prison toilet cost about $5,000. Is that right?
that is correct.
Now we all know.
Yes.
All right.
So $200 is well invested.
That's good.
In that.
Oh.
Roofing projects going on. We have one at the small EMS building. I have all 3 bids in that. We're gonna start that probably within the next 2 weeks. We have the courthouse roof, working on getting 3 bids for that, need to be painted. And also the little cupola up top needs to be redone as well. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
You gonna replace the post up there too?
Is that what we plan, is that what we need to do, put those back?
Yeah,
I don't know where they're at.
it's challenging. Probably should look for them. Got any idea? All
Yeah.
right. Anybody have any questions for Mooney? All right, thank you, Mooney. There you go. Ms. Warren?
Good afternoon. A lot going on in finance, but just a couple highlights. We are in the middle of our FY23 pre-audit work and working through all of the various documents and closing out reconciling accounts for FY23 for the upcoming full audit. And that will occur in the November timeframe. And then Munis payroll and HR, I'm happy to announce that Tilly and I have gotten through reconciling and getting everything on the HR payroll front in Munis, and we've been testing it through the payroll runs, and everything's coming out and reconciling perfect. And phase 2 of that is time and attendance. We are working on now creating, getting our timesheets set up, online timesheets for all of the county employees to be able to log their time online versus paper timesheets. So that's phase 2 of the Munis HR and payroll. That's going well. And then starting on the compensation study and working through that. And then lots of quarterly duties. Any questions?
Anybody have anything for Mr. Warren? Thank you very much, Mr. Warren. Gavin?
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah,
I've got
I'm not doing
2
it.
reports. I'll start with the EMS report for you. Mr. Hillstrom is on vacation, so hopefully he's having a good time. For the month of September 1st through September 30th, we had a total of 143 calls with an average response time of 11 minutes. Additional reports are available for the calls if you request them. We did have 7 dispatched mutual aid requests to Greene County, of which we answered 4. We had 5 for Orange County, of which we answered 3. 1 to Culpeper County, which we also answered. Personnel, we just welcomed John Kaufman. He is a paramedic. He is now precepting on A shift with us. John Ford and Carrie Thompson are both resigning as of October 17th from C shift. Carrie Thompson is in the process of transitioning to part-time. EMS has 1 vacant full-time EMT position, and we are fully staffed with part-time personnel at this time. Standby events, we had Taste of the Mountains on September 22nd, Woodbury football on 9/2, Madison County High School junior varsity on 9/13, Woodbury Forest football on 9/19, Woodbury Forest cross country on 9/22, Madison County High School varsity football on 9/29, and another Woodbury Forest football standby on 9/30. Office of EMS inspection is coming up on November 8th, so we're getting ready for that now. Implementing some new cross checks just to make sure that we've got everything taken care of and are ready for that. Do you have any questions for?
Are you with you're missing a part-time and you have 2 resignations, are we advertising currently?
Yes.
All right.
Matter of fact, we held interviews today. We have some more on Thursday to replace those positions.
How many applicants do you have?
What's that?
How many applicants?
I believe we had 4 EMT and 1 paramedic
Good.
that we interviewed. The paramedic is a really strong candidate, and we had a very strong EMT candidate who's actually completing paramedic training at Germanna College, and he actually has been precepting with us for his paramedic class, and he's known to us and familiar with Madison County, so he's a very strong candidate.
Good.
So we're very pleased with him.
Other questions on EMS?
I got one quick one.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So when we do the standbys, like Woodbury Forest, obviously it ties up one truck. And how many personnel? Just two?
Two,
Okay.
yes. And when we do the Woodbury standbys, they are non-dedicated standbys, which is different than when we do a Madison County High School standby. Those are dedicated trucks, so, which means we're paying overtime and we're bringing in a crew, unless we have volunteers that are able to staff, and then we don't incur those expenses. But for Woodbury, those are non-dedicated, which means we send a truck from our duty crew out there. As long as they don't get tied up on another call, they remain at Woodbury Forest for those standbys.
Or if they get a call, they leave
They
and go
leave.
take care of the
Right,
call? Okay.
right. And Woodbury's good with that arrangement. They're very pleased with the
Wow.
job we've been doing for them, and have shared that with us, so it's a good relationship.
What about emergency management?
Emergency management, my report's basically unchanged from last month. We are still waiting for the engineering information to come back for the shelter generator. Hopefully we'll have that soon. It does take a while to put all that together. We've got plenty of time. We've got till 2025 to get all this done. The SHSP grants that we put in, we should hear any day now. That is due in the month of October. So I would anticipate that we'll hear something in the next week or so. And then the only thing that's added to it is the LEPC has been scheduled for November 3rd at 2 p.m. here in this auditorium. And so we're looking forward to getting that. And that will be the last LEPC for the season, or for the year, for the calendar year. We'll also have some public safety meetings before that meeting to go over some EAP information and some other various topics.
Questions on emergency management? Thank you, Gavin.
Yes, sir.
Livingston, how's IT going?
Well, we're like everyone else, keeping things going down the road. There's a lot going on. We successfully spun up a brand-new virtual server for Jennifer and them's time and attendance, what she mentioned they're working on. So we got that up and running really fast, I gotta say. Some of our estimates were looking at a month. We did it in a week. But, so that will help that. We've got a couple of problems with the Comcast circuit over at the animal shelter. We're doing a workaround right now. It appears to be Comcast, so they can't use their cordless phones. The other problem we're fighting right now is it's called a API. It's basically a connection between the Avinity folks that Revenue One and Treasury works in, and to the new Laserfish document storage area. So when folks go out to the website and they click to download their tax invoice, they get an error. And we have to then send them that manually. So we're working to get that working. Those are our two negatives at the moment. There's really a lot more going on. The fiber's supposed to go live one more time on Thursday at 4:30.
It's exciting. We've been working on that for months now.
Years.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Good.
We did get all new data ran over in social services, and that ancient switch that was over there, it's technology, I'll just call it, is now gone. We have separated our computer network from the state's, so now we are not. We don't need to work with them or do anything more with them if we have a problem, and vice versa. Really, that's about the highlights of what we're working on.
Work order system still going well?
It is, but we're going to have to change it.
Why is that?
We have to change it because, where's Mr. Barry? The other one is not allowing us to set up an email alerts from, I have to ask Alan. I honestly don't know. It's to the point to where, until we don't talk about everything anymore. He goes off in his direction sometimes. And I go off in mine. But,
You're changing it to make it more responsive.
yeah. So, I don't know.
All right.
We'll bring that back, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. One of the things I know they are working on is not every email has a county domain. So for example, the clerk's office So we want to be able, if there's issues with IT equipment that needs their support, they are integrated as well. So we can bring that back,
Good.
Mr.
Yeah, just
Livingston, during next board report.
Good.
Tyler, training's going good with the zoning folks. We got them set up down there. I mean, I should have brought my pad with me, but that's off the top of my head.
All right. Anybody got any questions for Livingston? Jim?
No, but I've got a comment to make. He didn't mention this, but he and
Alan?
are working on developing multi-factor authentication for all county IT resources. And I will give you a heads up, after being involved in those kind of programs, there's going to be initial resistance to it because there is an inconvenience dimension to it. But it's something that I think we absolutely have to do as far as enhancing security at our IT systems. And Bruce is doing a really good job working out not only the technology, but the training and the rollout for it. But expect to hear complaints.
Roll out over the next couple months or a longer time frame than that?
Me and Mr. Judd got a little powwow coming up, and we're gonna discuss how to do it. I suspect we take a department at a time, if you agree with that. Because it will be confusion for folks at first, and there'll be an initial frustration level. But I think once folks get the groove of it, they'll once we roll it out to Clarissa's group and the sheriff's department and all that, like I said, I didn't like it at first. What, I gotta do this every time? But we had that one incident week before last that underscores how that we really need to get this in there quick, because we did have a bit of a breach.
You see rolling it out departmentally as a way to do it, Jim?
Yeah, I think that's the best way.
All right.
I think it'll help with acceptance of the overall policy.
And then once we're done with that, we'll do mobile device management. Everyone's gonna really love us with that. Any questions?
Sounds like the excitement's yet to come.
There's a lot of exciting stuff coming.
Good.
I mean, really, it's enjoyable.
Thank
For
you.
me.
Tracy?
So we had,
Maybe.
two wonderful ribbon cuttings on Saturday. We had Emmy Lou's and also Let's Go Have Fun. If you haven't been to Emmy Lou's, I know we've kind of called them mom and pops, but what they actually are entrepreneurs. It's amazing what she's done out there. And the lead she's taken. There's something for everyone there, everyone in your family. There's a spa, there's get your hair done, you can get your hat branded.
You do what?
You can get your hat branded.
Oh, good,
See, I knew you couldn't hear me. So yes, I encourage you to go out there.
good.
Kid tested and approved at the Let's Go Have Fun place, and ice cream tested by the adults, and that also was approved. And thanks for the stories, Chuck and Gracie, on that. And also attended the Rappahannock Rapidan Regional Commission's 50th anniversary last Wednesday, which was you guys' joint meeting, so you couldn't come. They were very appreciative of the resolution, also the plaque the chamber gave and the county via my economic development budget gave them one of those stools that are hand engraved by E.A. Clore, and they were very appreciative of that as well. Bob Coiner, the mayor of Gordonsville, read the benediction from, I can do math, wait a minute, 1973 at Grays Mountain Lodge. So he read that, so that was pretty special as well. And the most, I guess, important thing for my department is that our traveler spending was up 5.4% to just under 22 million, including indirect spending, meaning supply chain type things, brought it to about 32 million for 2022. They are using a different company, so they finally got the reports set up so you can go back and look, and anybody can. So it's vatc.org for anyone interested. You can see every county in Virginia. But most interesting to me is from 2019, we were at 16 million, 2020 at 15, so it only dropped about 1 million, which speaks to how everybody pivoted for curbside services and that type of thing. In 2022, tourism supported 223 jobs. And then on the next page, I have it kind of broken down. They did a different report. So it's broken down into lodgings, about 7 million. And then it goes into food and beverage, 6 million, broken down recreation, that kind of thing. So that's the main points for my report. I'll be going to the Tourism State Summit next month,
Where's that?
Richmond.
There you go. Anybody have any questions for Tracy?
Well, I got one quick one.
Please.
So Tracy, the last thing says grant for cluster growth.
Yes.
was turned in. So what is cluster growth? How much money did we apply for, and what is it going to be used for?
So that's a Go Virginia grant that we partnered with Nelson. So we've gotten almost like 500,000 in grants through Go Virginia. And that was also part of crafting a new normal. And before that, we had the Piedmont did the courses for people, in which Blue Courts attended those courses as well. So this is to look at gaps in the industry where it can be improved for everyone, and Francois is very involved in this one as well. So we're just looking at gaps in the industry, how we can improve things, production on down the line. It's a planning grant, essentially, and it's 100,000.
Good. Any other questions for Tracy? All right, thank you, Tracy. James, Faye says you're busy from the Planning Commission. Do you have anything else to report? Just good and busy, all right. Anybody have any questions for anyone? All right, let's move into the consent agenda. We have minutes from 9/12/2023. What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. We do have special appearances. Ms. Warren. Yeah, there you go. From CHA. Welcome.
Thank you. And just to correct it, my name is Warner.
Warner, excuse me. I apologize.
No problem. It was wrong in the minutes. I answered anything. So I wanted to provide you all an update. CHA has been assisting the county with your post-closure care at your landfill, as well as helping to stay in compliance with the Virginia Solid Waste Management regulations. So on the screen and in your packets is a summary of the various requirements related to your landfill itself. It closed in 1999. It has a 30-year post-closure care period, of which we are getting towards the end of it. And it requires groundwater monitoring, landfill gas monitoring. It requires that you manage your leachate appropriately. Right now it's getting hauled off to Riviera Sewer and Water Authority. And it requires that you maintain the cap that was put in place to help with managing the waste that's underneath it. It requires that you demonstrate you have financial assurance to pay for this post-closure care activities, and then also requires that you disclose who is your responsible officials. There is a solid waste management regulation that is currently in its final stages. The final, the public comment period is over. The final language has been agreed upon, and it's currently working its way through all the various approvals. It's been waiting for the secretary to review it and approve it for 314 days. So we're just waiting for that, and then the governor will also have to review and approve it, and then they will release an effective date. It's very similar to the update that we talked about almost 18 months ago, because the language is primarily the same and hasn't become effective yet. There's some landfill gas notifications that will be required, but probably the biggest difference is for groundwater monitoring, there are some emerging contaminants that will have to be added to your list. Those contaminants will not be required until the EPA promulgates a maximum contamination limit. And I think what we're hearing a lot of talking about now is PFAS and PFOS, the forever chemicals. The EPA has established an MCL of 4 parts per trillion. They have not made a particularly clear effective date yet, but we're anticipating that that rule will become effective sometime in the beginning of next year. And there's a 3-year period for drinking water systems to test for it once it becomes effective. DEQ has stated that it will be added to the groundwater program once it becomes effective. But again, we're not sure when that regulation change will quite be effective yet. Again, it's about $325 per well. You have 4 wells, so it will add a little bit of cost to your monitoring program. The next page talks about your transfer station, and I understand that there's been some discussion within the county about that. So there is a permit that requires your transfer station be operated in a specific manner. You have an operations manual that we help to draft and we revise as needed. There's some data that's required to be reported. Once a year, the solid waste annual report goes in. That's how the state keeps track of waste that's being generated in the state and where it's going. The recycling calculation is, there's a 15% recycling rate that's mandated by the state. It's only required that that report get turned into DEQ once every 4 years, but it is something that the county looks at annually. And then there's a solid waste management plan that gets updated once every 5 years. And finally, there's some other requirements, again, with financial assurance. There's a requirement for a licensed operator, and that you're checking to make sure that your waste coming in is all authorized. It meets the regulations. So 1% of the load that's coming in has to be inspected for unauthorized waste. Do you all have any questions?
How are we doing?
So you had a audit very recently, an inspection from DEQ, I want to say within the last 4 weeks, and there were no findings, no deficiencies.
Good. Other questions? Mr. Weekly?
If I may, because this might transition at some point. I know Updike's here tonight as well. We had a question on the calculation. Do you mind just kind of clarifying how that calculation is done for inbound or outbound as it pertains to recycling?
Right, so the 15% mandate is it's meant for the entire county. So we try to capture materials that are being recycled that may not even be part of the transfer station. So typically, if the report's going into DEQ and we're calculating that, we use the solid waste annual report to find out the amount of MSW or municipal solid waste that ends up in a landfill, and that's how you get the part of the calculation. And then the amount that's recycled, we use what gets recycled through the transfer station, and that would be the outgoing scales, not necessarily what gets sold to the markets at a later date, but it's what goes through the scales. And then we also capture other data sources. So we reach out to facilities within the county and outside the county that receive waste or recyclables from the county. So there are different scrap metal facilities that keep track of where the incoming material comes from, and they report out to us. I know tires are going to be mentioned. Sometimes tires may be recycled outside of the transfer station because you're using a auto parts, like a tire changing place, and we reach out to them as well as some of the other stores, or like Dollar General, some of those other commercial retail establishments have their own contracts for recycling, and we collect data from them as well. So that report doesn't just capture what goes through the transfer station, but it also captures other materials recycled within the county that you all may not have any management or control over.
And the wood chip waste is part of that calculation?
It is part of that calculation. It's considered, the way that they calculate it, they look at strictly recycling, and then they also look at what they call diversion or reuse, and that can be up to a certain percentage of that 15%. So I believe it can't account for more than 5% of that number.
I gotta ask, because all these folks want to know about recycling, I'm sure. You don't know what our percentage is, do you, right off?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that you have been meeting that 15% recycling rate. I think it's usually been around 17%, but I did provide that information.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, please.
Ms. Turner will bring up our
Yeah.
website. Ms. Warner was kind enough to provide historicals, and thank you. We had a citizen point out our dated information, so
2022, we're at 20.2%. That's terrific. Good. Thank you, Ms. Turner. All right, other questions from Mrs. Warner? Ms. Warner, thank you.
Yeah, well, I've got one quick
Please,
question.
sorry, I apologize. Oh, that was quick.
So you mentioned that you reach out to some of those recyclers, like tire people and all this, but there's no requirement for them to report back. Is it?
There is not. So our data is only as good as the participation of the businesses that report back to us.
I'm sorry, as the ones that do report on a voluntary basis is?
Yeah, I mean, we reach out to them. It's not like they come forward with it,
Right.
but the ones that answer our questions, you know, it's only as good as the data that we have. So
Yeah.
it's possible that we're missing recycling that, you know, we're not aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Anything down there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
I think just to clarify, because we have our folks here as contractors, your intent, because you mentioned public comment, Mr. Chairman, at 4A.
Yeah.
Is to have some maybe question period.
Yeah.
So I think the request would be, can we have folks hang out such as Ms.
Absolutely.
Warner? Okay.
You mind waiting around for a couple minutes? Thank you, Ms. Warner.
I know you're driving back to Blacksburg, so thank you.
All right, let's go to Updike presentation. Carl, come on up and talk to us. Thanks for coming.
A little bit about us. We're a small family-owned and operated business. AMRF Inc. stands for a material recovery facility, and that means that we prepare recyclable materials to be sold to end buyers. Core components of AMRF are sorting, processing, storing, and hauling. As of 2018, there were fewer than 500 material recovery facilities in the United States. We're proud to say that we've been part of the small population since 2008. Our facility accepts MSW and recyclable materials from commercial haulers and extracts recycled material before shipping residual material to a landfill for disposal. Here's some Madison's transfer station numbers that we put on here. You can see that they're all increasing since 2019, with the exception of aluminum, which has gone down by 0.3. The cardboard. When we receive cardboard contents, it is dumped and placed in the line to be baled into the bales you see in this picture. It is then hauled to several different vendors where it is reused. If any of the cardboard is contaminated, it is separated and sorted to prevent further contagion, and then the proper materials are placed back in the line to be baled. Little thing at the bottom, every ton of cardboard that's recycled saves 9 cubic yards of landfill space. It only takes 75% energy to produce new cardboard.
So Carl, real quick, so is wet cardboard considered contaminated?
It depends on the percentage.
Okay.
A small percentage is, and if you see the bales in the background, that's our loading dock at our facility last month. So those are the bales that weigh approximately 1,500 to 2,000 pounds per bale, and a little bit of wet cardboard in that doesn't apply.
Okay.
All right, keep going. Aluminum.
Aluminum's an easy one. Aluminum is an infinitely recyclable material. It takes up to 95% less energy to recycle than it does to produce greenhouse gases and emissions. Aluminum cans are brought into our facility and we transfer to them to several different vendors that will shred them, melt them, recast them, and turn them into new cans. If we receive materials with high volumes of recyclables mixed with trash, it's removed, set aside for extraction and separation. Glass can be recycled into fiberglass products, reflective paint, asphalt, flooring, countertops, and decorative applications. Tires are often shredded or broken down to be used for other purposes, such as decorations, playset bedding, or turf. On price increases, we received a 100% price increase as of January 1st from the landfills, and we only increased Madison County 49% at that time. The fuel we've increased per the contract with the fuel increase that's happened to everybody. And then we have not increased the operation of the transfer station at all since the beginning of the contract. We have placed an order for a Tesla road tractor. And you know how Elon Musk is, whenever that comes along, we'll get one. And the office's primary car is a Tesla. We'd like to make one comment that's on there on the cost that's not up there. Because last meeting, they were mentioning a 25% increase if you thought it would be rebid. So I looked around at the surrounding counties, and you're looking at about $106 per ton that they're anticipating handling MSW on 24 next year. And Madison County currently is at about 86 per ton. So if that increase would go up $20 per ton, you're looking at a total of about $132,000 annually.
Thank you.
So you're about spot on with this, 25%.
All right. What questions we have, Mr. Thornhill? I do have a list of questions that were submitted. I think if you don't, you have any questions down there?
I don't, I just, if I may,
Please.
point of privilege. So, and I appreciate both Updike and
Absolutely.
Ms. Warner here from CHA. So I know Ms. Warner has a drive back to Blacksburg. Just for full clarification to the board, they primarily handle the landfill closure permit. There is a portion of recycling which she just covered, recycling and weight. A lot of those questions may be geared towards Updike. So I'm trying to kind of sift through as you get questions, what may be pertinent questions to ask of Updike versus CHA. If there's none for Ms. Warner, as I'm sure Mr. Thornhill probably has limited time, I would ask that maybe the board would call on those questions first in respect to her commute.
Seems reasonable. Anybody have any comments on that? Ms. Thornhill, take a seat and we'll do some public questions, and then we'll kind of get them together and see if we can get some of this going. Maybe it's better, Bruce, you have an extra microphone? Or we'll get Hannon's, and we'll give Mr. Thornhill a microphone, and then people can ask some questions. Or Ms. Warner. Let's,
Cha-cha-cha.
all right, let's have some public comment. Anybody have any questions specifically towards CHA, the monitoring company for the closed landfill and then the landfill in general? Anybody have any public comments or questions? Yes, ma'am. Please come up and introduce yourself and go at it.
I'm Dana Squire, Madison. Thank you for those presentations. The thing is that they're kind of together as far as recycling rates and what's happening to our recyclables. So I don't have a question just about what CHA has done, but it depends on what Mr. Thornhill, how he responds to some of the questions we have.
All right. Ask the question.
Okay. Well, I'm concerned about plastics because we didn't address that. The mixed recycling is the largest group of recyclables that you listed. And so this is what we've been talking about. We have a sign at the landfill that says items 1 through 7, plastics marked with 1 through 7 inside the recycling symbol are okay to deposit. But we've heard that there are certain plastic materials like styrofoam that has a 6 in it that really is not recycled. And for example, one has several different kinds of plastic, and one of them is the clamshell container that's ubiquitous in grocery stores and the produce department, deli departments, and stuff like that, which is apparently processed differently than other ones like milk jug containers. And so from what I understand, those particular plastics can mess up the sorting equipment, and so most municipalities don't do it because it's too expensive. So I'm just trying to find out if these are really if 1 through 7 is really being recycled, and if not, how is it sorted off, and what happens to the ones that are not acceptable? Because as you know, we don't have single stream. So we're all separating out our recyclables, and even within the plastics, we're just putting all of our plastics in there. But if these things are not acceptable, then we'd rather not be bothering to sort them out. Can you answer that?
Sure, that goes along with the wet cardboard also. These plastic loads are about 1.5 to 2 tons per roll-off container when they come through, and they get mixed in with our commercial customers. So that 1.5 to 2 ton load goes in with a 20-ton load. So we have not had any issues with rejection. I actually just spoke with Mooney a little bit earlier, and I do agree it needs to be 1 through 5, not 6 and 7. Some 7s are recyclable, just depends on what they were made with. 6s are very hard to, and recycling plastic does cost money, it does not make money. You do have to pay more to recycle plastic than you do to landfill it.
What was that? 6 and 7's not recycled. Is that right?
6, not so much.
6
7.
Six
tough.
are not recycled. So-
Six is styrofoam, so yes,
All
that
right.
one's not.
So what
Styrofoam,
happens
right.
to, you say it gets mixed with a larger load, so percentage-wise, it's not contaminated enough? Is that what the deal is?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens to the contaminants, though? Would they keep the processing of the acceptable plastics? Would it impair that process?
As far as where we send it to our vendors, we have not had any loads rejected. So we don't physically recycle the plastic, but we send it to a vendor who does. So on their end, we have not had any issues with rejected loads with plastics.
So what actually happens to it?
The plastics, the sixes or the sevens,
Well, all of it that we've been putting in there.
it goes to vendors, just like our aluminum does, our cardboard does.
It depends on what it's being used for. It becomes a commodity, a raw material, just like anything else. So people that use plastics in their materials may want some recycled, some post-consumer plastic that they mix with virgin plastic to make whatever it is that they're making, or, you know, it all really depends on the application. You're just brokering it to somebody.
So, you know, it pertains to recycling rate. So if the weight that's used to determine our recycling rate is the weight of the material leaving the transfer station, then that is accurate because there is nothing being sorted off. But it seems to me that's not all being recycled. So
That's consistent with the way that it's calculated across the state. I think it would be hard to get to the numbers of how it's actually used, because typically that material may change hands several times before it actually gets reused.
okay.
I will say Madison County does a very good job of source separating, because there's not a lot of counties left that will actually source separate, where you have your glass, your aluminum, your cardboard, and your mixed plastics.
Right.
Most
It
counties
looks
do
like
these
it's
things.
really gone down, though, the amount that's being recycled. I mean, it's really gone up, sorry, the more recent years are. So I'm just concerned about the weight, you know, since we're paying more for recyclables to be hauled. If it's not all being used and some of it's being sorted out, then it would be better if we didn't put it in there in the first place. And it's being used to, I wonder about the accuracy of the recycling rate if it's not all actually being recycled. I guess it doesn't, that's just a statewide thing. It's the same. everywhere.
It would be consistent with how it's being done in the rest of the state.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Squire. Who else has questions or comments?
Carolyn Smith, I live here in the county. So from what I understand you to say, Mr. Thornhill, we should be recycling plastics 1 through 5 in our recycling center, but not 6 and 7?
I will make changes on work with Madison County on adjusting those signs. correct?
Okay, that's good to know. So one of the things that with commingled recycling, even though the sign says no plastic bags, a lot of our commingled recycling, so that's tin cans, paper, and plastics, I see them dumped in the big containers in great big trash bags. So that kind of stuff is not a problem? You guys do that kind of sorting and removing of materials from bags?
That goes with the same thing on the quantity of load. We have not had any rejected loads due to those, no.
Okay, so even though people aren't following your rules, it sounds like the things are still being recycled.
I think with this, nothing's gonna be 100%. You know, not everybody's gonna follow the sign. We even have issues with them hitting the right container, glass and plastic and aluminum. We have to sometimes do some sorting on our end for that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that people have some problems. My concern is just that if that would contaminate the whole load and cause it not to be recycled. But it sounds like you're saying that has not been the case from the processors that you send it on to.
Correct.
Okay. So can all kinds of cardboard be recycled, not just corrugated cardboard, but empty milk cartons and toilet paper rolls and cereal boxes? All of those things can be put in the cardboard bins?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what about used pizza boxes that have pizza stains in them or food and grease stains?
It's best for them to not be in. But it goes back to the same with the quantity on the bale. If you have a couple of pizza boxes in a 1,500-pound bale, that's not gonna reject anything.
And then what about the same thing, unrinsed glass containers or plastic containers that contain yogurt or peanut butter or tomato sauce or ketchup or something like that, where people don't take the time to rinse them out, and all that food is still in, would that, and make the load also not be acceptable for recycling?
For that, we have not had any objections. So again, it's best to do that, and we try to have people do it, but some of that stuff will get through, and the recycling places take
Well,
care
I
of that.
noticed at our recycling center, there are no signs to the effect that containers should be cleaned out, rinsed out. And I've seen, and I've taken loads to the dump from friends of mine, you know, if they know I'm going to the dump and they say, oh, I have some stuff, would you mind taking it? And I can see that they haven't cleaned out their jars, but there's no sign at the recycling center saying jars and plastic containers should be free from food stains or free from food particles. They should be rinsed out. So I'm just thinking that a lot of people maybe don't know, because I've said to people, you know, you can't take a used pizza box with your pizza grease all over and recycle it. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought we could recycle all kinds of cardboard. So I'm thinking there's just maybe not enough signage there for people to really understand what the requirements are. I think that would be helpful, in addition to changing the sign of the plastics to 1 through 5, and maybe another way of saying, no, don't put all your stuff in a big plastic trash bag and then dump it in here where it says no plastic bags. So I think it would be really helpful to get some better signs.
Yes, ma'am,
Thank
I
you for
agree.
being here and answering our questions.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sarah Fisher. So a suggestion or a question I have for you, you say that you can recycle some wet cardboard. So the recycling bins in Madison, the tops are open, and we have 5 inches of rain maybe. That cardboard is bound to be soaked. Is there a way to secure those lids on the recycle bins?
We can do that, and we have done that, and the residents keep opening them back up.
Is there a way
So-
to secure it though, where it can't, like a lock or,
We
and I
can
know
put-
that might be an inconvenience when you dump it.
They
But-
make lock bars that open up when they go inverted. So yes, they're automatic lock bars that go on containers, and we can revisit that. But again, those containers get dumped every Wednesday. So every week they go in with a commercial load, and we have not had any issues with any kind of wet cardboard. We bail them on our end, so if the cardboard is too wet, it will clog up our baler, and we'd have that issue, and we have.
I just was hoping some way we could.
We can look at, yes, I'll look at that when we do the signs. You're welcome.
You got 5 inches of rain this summer?
We got.
Yeah, 2. Oh, I take it 5. Yeah. What other questions, comments, Dee? Yes, we do. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, I'm Susie Davidson from the county, or from, I live here in the county. Couple questions for Mr. Thornhill. You said you processed it at your facility, you're a MRF. What exactly is that process? Do you take the MSW there and process it there to pull out the materials?
Are you speaking of the MSW from Madison County?
Yes.
No.
Where
We
does
do
it-
not take the MSW from Madison County because that's not a MRF, it's a transfer station, so it has to go direct to a landfill.
Okay, which landfill does it go to?
It goes to various ones.
And are, which are?
They're vendors that we have contracts with that I'm not allowed to divulge the information.
Okay, they're all landfills though, in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
state, certified?
Mhm.
Okay, all of the recycling materials, are they, all the recycling from Madison taken to your MRF?
Yes, correct.
And it's processed through your facility?
It's not processed, it's sorted and sold.
Okay. When it's in bags, do your operators open the bags?
Yes.
Do you have pickers on your line?
Mhm.
And what materials are pulled out and trashed?
They're source separated at Madison.
Okay. So, but the materials that are in the recycling that is not recyclable, what do you do with that material?
That material would go in with the MSW if it's not,
Okay, and so where does that material go?
to a landfill.
And do you have any quantitative numbers on how much material is considered residue?
I would have to look at that and see.
And the glass, where does the glass go?
To vendors.
What do you do with it?
It goes sold to vendors. I'm sorry, I'm not able to divulge where our products go.
So, I mean, it would be similar to the plastic and other materials. It's a commodity that
Okay.
gets reused, or, I mean, they mentioned the ways that it might be reused.
So is the glass 100% recycled? So is the, so.
Except for the plastic that's around the outside of it. That normally gets crushed and taken off.
Does it stay in the state of Virginia?
It gets sold to vendors, ma'am. I mean, we've shipped aluminum to China before. It can go wherever the buyer takes it.
And the tires, or same thing, you're just gonna say it's going to the
Yes, ma'am.
vendor? Okay. And as far as, perhaps maybe a suggestion for the recycling, when you're putting up signs, or when the residents put the recycling in bags, like a Walmart bag, perhaps maybe a suggestion is to add a container at the facility so that the residents can empty their recyclables into the container, put that, that bag, if you will, into a trash can, and then that can be handled separately, like with Trex,
That's a good point. That's a good idea.
and that way it won't contaminate the load.
Plastic bags can be recycled.
Yes, ma'am, they can, but not through the MRF, they can't. So if a plastic bag, which is called film, is separated separately, contracts with Trex is a really great idea, and I believe the county might already have a relationship there. Okay, thank you. Oh, I did have a question, ma'am.
Sure.
So when you're doing your report, is that for the solid waste information assessment report annually? The SWIA report?
The SWIA report is done annually, and then the recycling report goes to DEQ. You're required to do it once every 4 years.
Okay, so are you getting your data for the SWIA report from Ms. Thornhill or from the county?
So we request it from the county, who gets it from Mr. Thorne.
Okay. And how far back are you retaining your data for the reports?
So, I mean, the reports go into the state once a year, and they capture a 12-month period. We've been working with the county since 1997.
And have you noticed any anomalies year over year?
You know, the amounts of trash will vary. It depends on how the economy is doing, whether people are keeping things or throwing things away. As well as even with recycling, the markets have very widely, it's a commercial market out there, things that are getting recycled today because the market is good, glass beneficiary plant explosives and, other places has to go. So it's really market driven.
Okay, and then when you're doing the recycling rate report, when you're obtaining the data and the information to create that report, are you looking at all the businesses within the county, or are you outsourcing?
So we do contact businesses within the county. We typically use the same list, but we do work together with county, with the county administrator, with Rooney, to make sure that we're capturing, any new businesses that might be in the area. And then we also use data that would be from outside the county, but would take in materials from the county residents. So, metal recyclers maybe in Charlottesville, I don't have the names off the top of my head, but Typically, they keep track of where it comes from. If they don't, we can't use that data. So again, we might be missing materials that are getting recycled.
Okay, and as far as the categories that you're reaching out to,
So we're talking to used oil recycling places, so, car type, oil change type places, tires the same way, facilities like the bus garage that handles their own oil, does a lot of oil changes on their own. And then we're talking to commercial retail spaces, so, Dollar General, Family Dollar, those types of places. And then metals recyclers.
oh, okay, great. How about for yard waste? Are you in?
So we use the county's numbers regarding the mulch that gets processed through the transfer station, but we have not reached out to other facilities for yard waste.
I would make a suggestion to perhaps look at the landscape companies that do a lot of landscape work.
And so the yard waste can only account for up to 5% of that 15%, because it's not actually recycling, you're diverting from the landfill, which is perfect, but from the recycling rate, they limit that to 5% of the rate.
But if a company is composting it, that's also considered recycling opposed to landfilling.
Yes, but that would be if they're composting food.
So, but if
Yard
you,
waste is looked at differently in the recycling.
correct, but if you look at, like if you have brush and you mulch it, mulch material can be classified as recycled.
It can account for about 5%, up to 5% of your recycling rate.
Okay.
And you have a lot of brush that goes through your facility, so that does help you.
Okay. And I would also make a suggestion that perhaps the county look at partnering with the vineyards and the larger businesses in the county to perhaps strengthen the recycling opportunities. There are a lot more opportunities that are available, and it doesn't have to flow through the transfer station. Food waste is a huge opportunity that might be of future concern, and it would be beneficial for the county. You can open up a food waste opportunity, especially there are a lot of farmers in the county that if they can partner with the local restaurants, that might reduce, because they're throwing that food waste into the trash, which is increasing our trash numbers, which is increasing our costs. So for future opportunity.
So just to clarify with that, if they are taking their own food waste, like if you wanted to compost your food waste at your house, you're allowed to do that. If you take in food waste from other people, there are regulations and permits required. There is a composting facility permit. Not that would stop you from doing it, just to make sure that you're doing it properly.
Absolutely, and there are composting businesses that they do that for, that's what their function is.
Was it Valley Waste, I think, is that what it is? Blue Trucks, Valley Protein, they,
They do fats, oils, and greases.
yeah. All right,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. All right, any other questions? Comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am, please.
Sophie Laporte, Rochelle. I was wondering, out of the 15%, what is the percentage of the mix recycle that's from, that Updike takes? What is the percentage?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I do know that the materials that go through the transfer station versus the ones that we capture in our data that don't go through the transfer station, like the businesses that may not use Madison County Transfer Station. That number that doesn't go through there is about 4% of your total recycling. So what would go through the transfer station would be approximately 11%. But I don't know whether that would be plastic. Plastic is very light, so from
No,
a
I'm
weight
talking
standpoint-
about the mix, which is, he's talking like where we put plastic and cans and
My
paper.
understanding is you collect it separately. Is that right? You have separate containers? for
Correct.
different materials?
Correct.
So,
No, it's a huge
Plastic.
bin that you mix, you put the plastic and you put.
Yes, that's separate than the aluminum and the glass and the cardboard, is
Oh,
what she's
yes,
saying.
yes,
Yeah.
I know, but
Mhm.
in that bin, we put everything else. That's not
Correct.
glass and cardboard. Right. And this, we don't know where it's going.
so your cans and plastic are mixed together?
Correct.
Okay, so this
Steel.
container, he can't tell us, he doesn't tell us who the vendor is. I have employees from you that told me that it's going to the landfill. So, that means 11% is not really getting recycled, it's going to
Well, I
landfill.
can't,
But you're all like,
I
with
can't
the
speak
state.
for his, but, so I am part of a solid waste professional organization that work with other MRFs. And while there typically is contamination, they typically do a good job of sorting it and making it so that their customer will buy it, because their customer won't take it if they can't use it.
but he's doing the mix bin where there's plastic in.
So you all have a sorting.
That he sells directly to a vendor, you don't sort that.
No, he already
It goes to a
answered
vendor.
that.
Yes, ma'am, I already did
You
answer
sort
that.
everything there.
No, ma'am, that box goes to a vendor.
Yes, exactly, it goes to a vendor.
Okay, so I've worked with vendors that have sorted those, and pretty much they do their best to capture as much as they
So
can.
those vendors that you work with, they're his vendors?
I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking at,
No, I agree.
looking at other possibilities than Updike for, and separating also the wet from the dry garbage. Like, I know like, I'm from Canada, and we separate dry with wet, which helps the landfills. There's less pollution, and it's easier to control for the state, all the testing, if you have a separation from wet and dry. And then it's obligatory down there that you recycle, and it is through vendors that do sort, but it's just, I don't know if Updike really sells it to vendors that do recycle, or just to vendors that do send it to landfill. I'm just saying, we don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, also, the cardboard. You said contamination in the cardboard. Do I need to take the tape off on the cardboard? What do we need to do to have a cardboard that's not contaminated?
You do not need to remove the tape. A wet soaked pizza box is not ideal.
So that's all? That's all the requirements for cardboard?
Yes, ma'am, cardboard is pretty easy to recycle.
Okay. And my other question is about old gasoline that we need to, and old diesel and used oil. There's actually no place at the waste management that we can dump that or put in a bin or something. So could we, because I know what farmers doing, or everybody's doing, is just dump it in the ground.
No, absolutely
So
not.
where
Absolutely
can-
not. That's
Oh,
wrong.
good Lord,
And I'm a
no.
farmer.
So
Yeah,
where
not at
can
all.
we put that? Where can we,
Reused motor oil can be taken to many of the ag shops and dealers, and they use it to fire their shop furnaces in the
Yeah, I know,
wintertime.
but old gas, because now gas has ethanol. And it gets 1 month in a can and it's no good, it will break your machine. So what do you do with the old gas? And
I think if you talk to the ag extension agent, he has a whole list of different places that you can
ag
take.
agent,
Yes, Brad Jarvis is our ag extension agent, like Culpeper has Carl Stanford. I think Orange is advertising right now. There's multiple different ag extension
Brad
agents
is
for
in-
each.
in Culpeper?
Brad Jarvis?
Yes.
He is in Madison, about a mile up the street. And he will tell you about, he can also tell you about herbicides and pesticides that need to be recycled responsibly. Gasoline is definitely one of those as well. Any type of chemical, he pretty much can tell you about how to remediate and recycle in a responsible
So in
manner.
Madison, we have an area
No.
where we can?
No, it's outside of Madison.
Oh.
It is a private sector deal. Yes, ma'am.
Well, shouldn't we have something in Madison? so
Listen, it
people-
sounds like a business opportunity.
And, that's about it.
Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am, please. Okay.
I read an article some time ago about, actually the company, his alleged vendors who sort out all those. And one of the things I did read was that if you throw all the plastic bags, all the Walmart bags, all the stuff, all it does is it gums up the works and it makes it really, really hard for these people to
Recycle appropriately.
recycle, to be able to sort all that stuff. So maybe I agree, what we said before, an emphasis on not throwing all those plastic bags in there. I
Yes,
think they could probably sort it out pretty well.
Yep.
If they didn't do that, so that might be an emphasis you could put on it. And then I just noticed the other day, our school system has instituted a battery recycling campaign. I've seen some signs in the primary school. Could not the county just kind of put some battery recycling bins in the county, in places in the county, so that we don't have to go all the way to Batteries R Us in Charlottesville? Or
Who knows about battery
I'll put
recycling?
up what we have found that are opportunities to recycle batteries. It doesn't speak to Ms. Burr's comment about having it at our facility. But if you go to our website, there's a link to, yes, there's additional resources. It'll cause you to leave our site, but we've given you additional resources to take various things. Can you click batteries? I have never clicked that to see what's listed.
Heck, does that
Does it
suck?
bring up some vendors below? Normally, if you
different types
click
of
one, it'll
batteries.
bring up vendors. Lowe's is one, for example. So we try to point you to some. I know it may not always be convenient, such as the gasoline comment of having bins here versus elsewhere, but we're at least trying to, one, use our new website, but two, make sure we give you opportunities that, even though they may not exist in the county, it can point you to an appropriate place to recycle.
But could we team up with the schools? The schools are recycling batteries. I just saw a sign in the primary school. They have battery, I mean, it's like.
Okay, just first we're hearing about the batteries recycled in the school. We can certainly look into it. Yes, ma'am.
Last week, I
Good to know.
think it was a good initiative, but maybe we could just add a few more places where you could throw your batteries and must be some,
Uh,
might be making some.
We certainly can look into it. Yes, ma'am. Come on up, Ms. Dixon. We do need to kind of wrap up a little bit, though.
I'm often told that people can't hear me, so I'm going to get really close to this microphone.
No, you don't have to stand so close.
Too loud?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good. Go ahead, speak like normal.
Okay. I'm not really sure who to address this to, because because building a whole economy around recycling sounds like a really good idea. It seems like there's an overall communication problem. And for me, there is a fundamental problem in that I like to think of things as watersheds. And we should do things in relation to our watershed instead of our counties and our states and other ways of looking at how to organize. And first of all, actually, my name is Bonnie Dixon, and I live next to the Robinson River in Crookersville, literally at the top of the bank. Anything and everything I put on or bury in the ground there affects our Rappahannock, Rapidan, Hazel River watershed. Knowing there is a high probability I will move because our old house and the land around it are too much for me to manage, I committed to getting rid of things I do not intend to take with me. In June, I decided to begin disposal of unused paint and toxic cleaning substances. Inquiries resulted in having them taken for recycling to places they could be used effectively. Later, I found a large bag of garden lime in a shed. Instructions on the bag about disposal specified careful handling. I asked what to do at the transfer station. I was told I could not leave it. I could not leave it there, but people at Lowe's might help me. Employees at Lowe's said they couldn't help. Someone in the line behind me overheard and told me I would have to contact people in another county, take it to them, and pay a fee. Later, people from Page County told me they would take it for the garden projects they encourage if I took it to them, so I did. Another questionable find was how to safely dispose of what was used for COVID testing, which I was storing, not knowing what else to do with it. Then, cleaning out a medicine cabinet, I found iodine and mercurochrome. Used for first aid in the past, they contain mercury, which is now known should be handled with great care. Multiplying my experience by that of many others, you can draw a logical conclusion that guidance from Madison County and our transfer station for people trying to do the right things for everyone's benefit is needed and would be welcome. We are fortunate to live at the top of our watershed, but everyone downstream must depend on us for responsible behavior. This isn't simply about profit motive. There are many important consequences.
Thank you. All right, any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had a few things to add. The discussion about cardboard or containers, we can't close the lids because they're those huge dumpsters or whatever you call them. There's some slots, and they're difficult to use, and especially if you're short. I'm trying to get it at the top, but I don't see how anybody could close one of those. It's huge. And about plastic bags and the suggestion to have a container there to put our plastic bags in, that might encourage people to do that more. I think that's a great idea, but I don't think that we want Updike to take it and put it in a landfill when it's a recyclable item. And it is used, they are used to make Trex, and you guys probably know that at Food Lion, outside Food Lion, there's a bin for putting plastics and films in. And I talked to them, and they actually take more recyclables than that, because they recycle their cardboard and other things, and they send it to a distribution center in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. I haven't been able to find out exactly what they do with the plastic bags, but I do know from talking to a board member of the Virginia Recycling Association that the Trex factory outside of Winchester or in Winchester uses those bags to make that product. And so it's, the one thing that's hard to recycle, or that's problematic when we're trying to recycle, is something that's actually got a pretty high recycling rate if you go through the right channels. So if we had a container there, it maybe be somebody else's job, the county or volunteer effort or something, to actually take them to a facility that will recycle them. And another thing, one last thing that I want to bring up, and because it's just come up a couple of other times, I'm concerned that a lot of this stuff is just going straight to a landfill. I was having a lot of trouble getting information about the disposition of our recyclables. I started in May, it's culminating tonight with Mr. Thornhill actually kindly coming in and representing Updike. But while I couldn't get any information, I decided to track some items that I had put in my recycling. And one item in particular, I was interested, it was a recyclable plastic container, according to the numbers that we're talking about. And I tracked it to a landfill in King George County. So I would like an explanation of how that could end up there, unless it's just that whoever you give the load to is dumping it there. Because apparently it is supposed to be recyclable, but it's not. It's in a landfill. So I just hate the idea that we're taking all this trouble and have good faith of having the stuff properly disposed of. And it's just ending up in a landfill. So how could that end up in a landfill in King George?
Done, so I can research it.
Yes. Okay. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
When you say you track it, you put an Apple tracker or something in it, so I don't know, he's just shipping the load to sorting facility, but that sorting facility uses visual optics and robots to sort the line, to sort materials, and it may be that that particular material got sorted out because it had a tracker. Like, it may have noticed that it was contaminated or something like that.
Well, it sounds like it's okay for us to put anything in the bins. I mean, whether it's contaminated pizza, littered cardboard, or the wrong plastics, or whatever. So I just don't have any assurance that it's really being separated out and treated responsibly. That's my concern. I don't know about the tracker. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anybody else? It sounds like we have some remedies. We're going to get some signs. 6 and 7, do not recycle. We should have some kind of sign that says clean recyclables. I'm looking at y'all. Does that sound fairly reasonable? And the trash can for the bags. That's right. These seem like quick remedies. Not
I got a better
unobtainable.
remedy.
Please, yes, go ahead.
The issue starts when we buy stuff, okay?
here we go.
The fundamental problem is the packaging up front. I mean, you go into the store, I mean, I remember when Yoda's first started way back, and my mom would go in there and she would buy the flour and everything in bulk. And now you go into the store and, you know, the little packages of chocolate pudding, you know, there's 8 of them in a little pack, all ready to go. Go buy your own chocolate pudding and, you know, take about 10 minutes to stir it up and put it in your little containers. When you go into a restaurant, question, when you take your doggy bag with you, question them why they're using non-recyclable styrofoam as opposed to something that will deteriorate within a couple of months or something that can be recycled. I mean, that's the fundamental problem is all this packaging up front.
Sounds
I mean,
great.
it just irritates me to no end. I was in the food line today. Oh, it was horrible. And walked past to get myself some chocolate pudding, which I love, and I saw those containers, and I just felt like, you know, throwing them on the floor. That's all I.
You're the only person making your own Jell-O. I had no
That's the
idea
only
you were
thing I
such an
can make.
aficionado.
But, you know, unfortunately, I was talking to a guy from Raleigh, North Carolina, this past weekend, and I was telling him that this was on the agenda and how, you know, I mean, my mom was avid recycler. Of course, my dad was telling her all the while, you're trying to put out a forest fire by urinating on it, but she wouldn't stop, and I agree. I don't stop either. I gotta try. But this guy that I was talking to from Raleigh, North Carolina, he goes, Cardi, I hate to burst your bubble, but a lot of this stuff, the market's not there. When Updike sends it to them, if the market's not there, is going to a landfill. I said, thanks a lot, Jeff, for that. But anyhow, let's work on the upfront stuff so we don't create it. Now, I forgot my bags to take to the food line this morning. I've got a bunch of them that I've confiscated from the farmer's market. And I went home with 10, plastic bags. And they were starting to put one item in each bag. It's like, stop, throw that stuff together. Huh?
They're too weak to carry anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know,
guess
I'm
that
with
could
you.
be.
Fewer bags possible.
But anyhow,
It's a different reason.
Let's start up front. Let's make that a push.
This is a great comment, Cardi. Great comments. Anybody else have anything? Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it the county can put a law, like Albermale decided that they will remove the plastic, some people have to bring.
The bag tax.
Or they have to pay for their plastic bags. And it's the county that decides that. We could decide also that no more styrofoam. It's up to the county to decide, and the restaurant have to obey those laws and use cardboard instead of styrofoam. And same thing for plastic bags. The county has a lot of power to try to be cleaner and to help the recycling and the watershed. So we have a lot of rivers here.
We do.
And it all ends up in the Chesapeake.
Which
So
is,
we have to think in the future, and 15% recyclable. If you count tires and all, that's nothing. We should be doing better than that. We can start with the transfer station and also with the business around and apply some laws. Because, like you say, it's businesses too that have tremendous waste.
But it's also, if we were to do something like that, it's an expense to these businesses, and I would rather try this voluntary thing. When my sister-in-law was running the Madison Inn restaurant, she converted over to doggy bag containers that would break down. She did it on her own, but it cost her more. So anyhow.
all right. All right, we need to wrap this up. We've let this go for a while. Yes, ma'am.
And what Cardi said is absolutely right.
There you go.
First thing to do is to reduce, and the second thing to do is to reuse. But it's this way, it's by conversations like this that we can change things. If you want to buy some salad at Food Lion, you're going to have to buy one of those plastic containers, which from what I can understand is not recyclable. This is the way to start to put pressure on manufacturers to change their packaging. I mean, we're just little old Madison, but, if you guys put pressure on restaurants or businesses to be more responsible about what they're doing, and we as consumers do the same thing, I just think this is where we're starting tonight.
Absolutely. All right. All right, we're done with this. Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Mr. Thornhill, thank you. Appreciate everybody
Drive
coming.
safe.
Try to change the world.
Thanks, Mooney. Thank you.
All right, old business, transfer station contract. All right, let's take 2 seconds here.
They're probably good.
Yeah.
Somebody's gotta pay every time. Somebody has to pay every time. You start putting taxes on.
We can't keep a restaurant in Madison now, imagine that. I told him, they don't have enough to do. And I told Clay, I said, there are a bunch of, most of them are move-ins. And they move in here with all these ideas.
I know. Listen,
If you don't laugh, you'll cry, so laugh.
I'm with you
Yeah.
in every way.
Hey, the good thing is, it looks like I was really busy. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't
well,
start
we
sweating.
were writing notes mostly.
Trust me, I'm catching stares from people out in the audience like.
Hey, I want to play poker with you because you have no poker
I'm
face.
telling
None.
you, no, everybody beat me.
You can hear you can hear his voice. He has no poker face.
He has no
Clay,
poker.
Clay, how many years have we been involved in programs to save the Chesapeake?
Oh,
40?
Chesapeake Bay is cleaner than it's ever been, which is actually hard on some of the oyster fisher, the shell fishermen, because it's not dirty enough and their productivity is going down.
And most of the discharge comes from the urban areas.
That's correct,
too.
100%.
Farmers are dumping oil and gas.
No, that is
Dump it everywhere.
ridiculous.
I know one thing, I know Jim Carpenter Company dumped it out there. Oh,
That
absolutely.
was
They
very
have
good, Cardi.
forklifts
That was
and
the best comment I think you've
sawmills.
ever made.
I
That really had
worked
to
there
stand.
from
I'm
69 to
sorry.
85.
I'm telling you.
They-
Really?
Yeah, and they had a
That's very good.
shop that they repaired the trucks, the forklifts, and all the
Yeah, there you
equipment.
go.
They just took that oil right back out there and poured it back out in the back.
All right.
I think people did it a lot.
Oh, at one time you did.
I think they did.
Mr. Weekly, tell us about the transfer station contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Transfer station contract, this is old business we brought back from the last meeting. So some of this board report you've seen prior. The original contract was executed, the term began August 1st, 2019, and the initial term runs until August of 2024. So like all contracts we maintain between the county administrator's office and finance, we review these just to make sure, one, are we in compliance, or when there's renewal periods, or if there's cases where board might ask us to review something in advance. It does require 180 days' notice if you do not wish to renew. The contract currently is written where it allows for 3 renewal periods. So you have the initial term, that's when we're in now, and then 3 renewal periods. Each of those renewals has a 5-year term with that renewal. Again, if your other option is to give notice and go out for bid, but you have to give 180 days notice. Just a little background, as mentioned last time, some of the things I do depending on who we're contracted with and what they are required to do. In this case, there's a lot of compliance things that have to be met, so I'll go back to see what's our compliance history and so forth. We have no major or any compliance issues. I think in my 2 years here, there was a blower we had to deal with. Anytime a blower goes down, methane can leave at a higher level. It doesn't mean that you strike a match and the place blows up. In all seriousness, there are just, you have air, water, land, all those levels run through DEQ. That was corrected. So that was equipment failure, and we had an update to our operations manual when there was a changeover staff from Mr. Roger Berry. Someone's left their phone there. I don't know if that was Sandy. Bruce, can you do me a favor, sir? Can you get this cell phone and see if that's Miss Warner's and catch her before she goes back to Blacksburg? Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm
No, dude, that is a good thing to do for somebody.
So, no compliance issues, actually, we've been receiving some complimentary emails. I had a chance to meet David, I think is the new operator in the back, that is really taking that site to another level. I know some folks look at it as a transfer station or don't, but it really appearance, and that's half the battle, is being in utility prior. When DEQ shows up at your door, they look at appearance first to see how many rocks they have to unturn. So I have nothing that I've seen that shows non-compliance or failure to act or correct. So I'm here seeking direction from the Board of Supervisors. If you wish to renew, you can simply authorize me to do so administratively because that is in the existing contract, or if there's another direction the board wishes to take.
Does anybody want to go out to bid on this thing?
No, sir.
No.
I think we're just asking for trouble doing that. Let's use one of our options and move on here. Mr. Gale, you see anything different other than that?
No, sir. I mean, I think we haven't had any issues. The cost is likely only go up, and the place looks good. I like the bird in the hand.
There you go.
I agree.
We probably should have a motion. What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the county administrator to sign the contract and continue on.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thornhill. REC easement update. Hannon.
So we have worked out with REC the language of this easement for up at Hoover Ridge. It's 7.5 foot for either side, 15-foot total. It's underground only. This is a no-cost easement, and it's to help with the fiber hut that we just, we approved that last week?
Yes, sir. There's only the conduit portion that's remaining, but the fiber hut, yes, sir. We're waiting for the fully executed copy to come back from them.
So that's an attachment to this packet, and it'll be on the agenda for next week. It's being advertised.
October 10th.
Starting Thursday.
So, anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts about this? Go through the process, do another public hearing. Got anything?
No.
All right. That it? All right, new business. Article 7 filing requirements. Mr. Wright, let's go again.
You got it. So this has come up, and this is, we're talking Article 7 of our subdivision ordinance about final plat approval. We've had, I'll say, some issues, controversies, discussion about what's getting approved and recorded at the clerk's office. I know the planning commission has been directed to study some of these issues, like we had with the boundary line adjustment, and that's ongoing. So one of the things we've looked at as part of this is, I think it's Article 7-3, talks about final plat and approval. So that addresses what's required for final plat approval. Sort of the open question here is maybe that needs to be revised in order to clean up any ambiguities. Just as an example, and it may be an example that we follow, is Culpeper has in their subdivision ordinance, it's 903 in theirs, it says essentially that everything needs to get county approval before it's recorded in the clerk's office. I say everything, I don't mean everything. Not something that's just a simple transfer of property, but anything that's, even an easement plat that's not part of a subdivision would have to get recorded. And so, you know, any plat or plan, regardless of whether it's in a subdivision, boundary survey, easement plat, has to be reviewed and approved by the zoning administrator before it can be recorded.
And many of those items,
Sure.
though, are administratively done. They don't all have to go in front of the planning commission, so that getting a quick overview or a quick signature off of that administratively is not as intrusive as it could be.
Correct.
All right. Yeah.
So it would also, it would, I think, also help the clerk's office, in that they would know that everything's got to have a certain signature on it before, because their job is not to go back and compare things to our ordinances. So this is a suggestion. I will say just one other sort of saved ground on this, which is, one concern I've got is that we start piecemealing some of these things, and it may be time, I'm the new guy, but it may be time to do more of a comprehensive overview of some of these, of our planning and subdivision ordinances. I'm just throwing that out there as a topic of discussion, but I think this one in particular might help everyone involved in terms of clarity and removing any ambiguities.
This one I do. I think we go down the path and we clarify. I agree with your piecemealing, and you're just asking for abuse, Hannon, by saying go through the whole thing, and you're probably right. And we've known about it for a long time, and it is a daunting task to go through all of our ordinances. On this Article 7, though, I think that we should have county approval prior to recording in the at the courthouse by the clerk. I think we need to go down that path and come up with a revision and then move on with this. What else you got, Mr. Wakely?
I think there are some additional things we can clean up. We'll have to go back to the minutes. I know we had some dialogue earlier, Mr. Chairman, but
Yes, sir.
one of the things that was referenced, 17 copies required to be submitted by the
No, that's way
applicant.
too
I
many.
thought we changed that years ago because we didn't want 12 copies and 5 copies, a total of 17 copies just left here. So we'll need to look at that. Also, some of the committee members that are looking at your boundary line adjustment, they called Mr. Wright and I after their last planning commission, or joint meeting, and was making some reference to additional ordinances. So I would just add, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that while you're looking at 7-1, maybe also look at the platting requirements or plat preparation procedures that's also found in Article 4 of your subdivision. And let me go to, I think 3.5 was brought up, so that's subdivision. It's kind of awkward. So when you go through our table of contents, find the subdivision ordinances, and then you go to the appropriate article. Article 3-5. So in Article 7, non-family lot, one of those lots is allowed via your ordinance to be administratively approved. Your agent naturally is the county planner as specified. However, when you look at Article 3-5 in the subdivision ordinance, it says all subdivisions shall be approved by the Board of Supervisors at the review and recommendation from the Planning Commission. Such approval shall, in a review, shall comply with the time period set forth in the Code of Virginia. So my point being is, it may be one of those things where, ordinances point to other ordinance that it just may have got overlooked, but I think 3-5, 4-1, and 7, Article 7 should be looked at simultaneously. Also, our code ordinances online, you can do a word search, and a lot of times it will point you to other articles. So those are the three that I've seen that kind of work in unison, but there may be additionals that I hadn't discovered at this time.
All right.
And the recommended changing of the 17 app
Yeah, that's way too
copies
many.
if we have
Way
not
too
already
many.
acted.
All right. I think two parts of this, and you're in the same boat as Hannon, Mr. Weekly, I think the direction is everybody go through and look and see if you see any different items. But the three you've got identified already, make some amendments to them, bring them back to us, and we'll see where we can go from there. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, that seems to be the direction.
I got lunch, sir. We'll do a study group.
That's fantastic.
So, I just got
Please.
a question. So in the middle of that paragraph, it's up on the screen, and it says, once it's determined the subdivision plat meets county ordinances, the county planner approves and signs the plat. But that is not in the ordinance that he does that. That's just the way we've been operating and most of the time, I think. Because if you look at the 7-1, it's not in there, so.
I'm going to pull up that now. I want to be fair to Mr. Wright. Mr. I know you addressed that to Mr. Wright. This was a staff report I initially drafted and asked Mr. Webb to review, edit, have input, because I wanted to know how are we currently doing this? So what you have, as you accurately described under the summary, is what he informed me, how we're doing this. Was it 7-1, sir, you said?
Yeah, I think, that's what's in here under filing requirements,
So-
which is on the next page.
Yeah, 7-1, subdivisions approved administratively shall require one print of the final plat to be maintained and handled. Can you,
That one.
thank you very much.
It just doesn't say anywhere in there, you gotta sign it.
So what they're supposed to do, go back a little bit, the surveyor is supposed to have the plat affixed a signature line, so you can sign off on that. So that is required by our ordinance to do that, and then it is administratively approved from there. Our planner, who's in training, so my apologies, normally I have department heads here in reference to what the item is. They inform me there's only been a couple times where they've had it reversed, where someone's tried to file it ahead of that time. This is certainly something Mr. Wright can opine, but I view your ordinance as the legal document, so if someone has filed something inappropriately, I don't think that would be deemed legal if we're saying signature block, signed off by the county designee, and then filed.
Correct. And simply because it got recorded by the clerk wouldn't necessarily make it legal. But now, we've created a whole different world of pain for trying to, I'm gonna say unring that bell, but basically to try to undo what's been done, so. Best if we can get ahead of it before all that.
If you look at your last two sentences, Mr. Yao, members of the board, of 7-1, so you have two things. The second to last sentence was a change from, in March of 2020, where you went from shall, so a final plat is now recommended to have all required plat details and approved signatures from VDH and VDOT. However, the last sentence, the lot and parcels recorded without such approval signatures, so I'm assuming that's pointing back to those signatures above, shall not be issued a zoning or building permit until such approvals are obtained in writing. So I don't know if those two sentences appear to be in conflict with you all, but the second to last sentence was a change as recent of 2020. So we can certainly look to make any changes, or if you have any thoughts tonight, if not, certainly if you think of them in the next coming days, Mr. Wright and I will get together, 3-5, 4-1, 7-1, and make some recommendations. We'll probably have some conversations with clerk and planner. In 7-3?
7-3.
Is everybody good with this recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Let's go down this path and see where it takes us. It definitely seems to be the better direction to go. All right, anything else on this one? All right, we do have a fireworks permit request from the Madison County Public Schools pertaining to, in this one specifically, is at Eddie Dean Field, at 8 o'clock this upcoming Friday. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
May I, just a little
Please.
background? I think the last home game, there were fireworks, and quite frankly, as a spectator, I enjoyed it because you see other counties around us, Louisa and Culpeper with Eastern View, that are doing these things. However, the issue was raised with the schools, hey, do you have all the proper, any permitting or approvals? We have a fireworks permit. Did go back in our administrative fees. The only thing that you have made schools and other organizations exempt from is permit fees dealing with zoning and building. So the head of, I forget Mr. Eanes' title, he's tied into school security. He was tasked with following up on this item. So I asked him, instead of one event, does it make sense to ask the board for a blanket annual football season
Let's do that.
approval?
Let's do that.
So moved.
There you go. Sorry. Motion's made and seconded. You got more to discuss?
Just if y'all approve, just sign that, please, and we'll send that over tomorrow.
Anybody else have any
Just
discussion,
one
please? By all
comment,
means.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
And we're going under the assumption that the school is going to be in compliance with all the safety precautions, and it'll be reviewed, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I mentioned to Mr. Eanes today, I think it's at the lower part
There's
of
an
that permit.
asterisk.
We do not have a local ordinance, however, we do require you, I think it's following NFPA standards,
Yeah.
which one of those requires a pyrotechnician.
The
So
Madison,
I
the
did
County of
inform that.
Madison requires individuals and organizations who will be conducting fireworks displays to comply with the minimum terms and conditions set forward by Virginia statewide fire prevention code and the reference NFPA 11-23-00 standard governing the use, storage, and firing of display fireworks. So we're covered.
And they
Right
put-
in it. There you go.
They put Eddie Dean Field, the actual location of the pyrotechnics will be up on the track. Is there, so safe proximity from spectators.
Everybody good on doing a seasonal approval? Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. Discussion. Hoover Ridge Outdoor Rec Project Resolution. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently, I've had some good dialogue with Support Hoover Ridge members primarily. Mr. Vice Chairman is a member of that group. You may recall Parks and Rec Authority team members came and requested the Board of Supervisors to please invest in this project known as the Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center. And for those in attendance, if you'd like more information, please seek me out or go see Lindsey Von Herbelis with Parks and Rec Authority. Support Hoover Ridge has been discussing the ability to obtain a solid grant writer, someone who's experienced in this arena. and may be able to look beyond normal staff resources to obtain a grant for that. We know this will be a heavy lift as far as funding. We had the preliminary engineering report that was done earlier on that their estimate's over $3 million for this project. The county thus far for the FY '24 approved budget we're in now approved roughly, I believe it was $212,000 for engineering and design and bid assistance. So that's where the project's currently at. Being that Support Hoover Ridge is considering this item, I spoke to Supervisor and Vice Chairman Yao late last week, and I would just respectfully look to you if there's anything additional or what may be needed or requested from the group as far as a resolution to put in your grant application.
All right. So first off, Jonathan wasn't aware of this relationship between Support Hoover Ridge and Parks and Rec and the Board of Supervisors, because I didn't even notice that he was on the email when I said, yes, I approve us hiring a grant writer, and Jonathan comes by and goes, really? Where are you getting this money? It was coming from
Good job,
Support
Jonathan.
Hoover.
Good job,
Yeah,
Jonathan.
he did. It was like, oh, well, yeah, he didn't. Okay, so Support Hoover Ridge is a 501c3 set up about 5 years ago to be the fundraising arm for Parks and Rec. Okay, so now we've got a board. I sit on that board, not appointed by this board. So the discussion is this possible grant writer we can get. But her first thing was, could I have something to put in my request for a grant that shows that the Board of Supervisors of Madison County are behind this? And I said, well, first of all, we could put this in resolution, we've appropriated $212,000 or whatever it was, dollars, and there's minutes to that effect where we approved that. They go, yeah, but if we could have just a resolution showing that we're behind it. And when Lindsay went to meet with Culpeper Wellness about 6 weeks ago, that was one of the first questions out of their mouth is the Board of Supervisors behind this? And she goes, yeah, but it'd be nice if we had a resolution that we could show them. So that's what this is about.
All right, everybody is nodding in agreement. Let's draft a resolution, bring it to us at our next meeting. Pass resolutions all the time. I think the 212 kind of symbolizes something, actually a lot. Let's get a resolution in front of us, and then we can pass this thing. A grant writer sounds like a great idea. We hear it on multiple different organizations need grant writers. That would be money that we would not have to kick in and hopefully would become available. What loses there?
Yeah, there is. So a lot of the money that's already been donated to Support Hoover Ridge for this project, like the hockey. Chris Artelli is doing a great job, the hockey guy, to get money. But some of it is it's not specifically called out. So we have some, am I trying to say,
unappropriated, outstanding potential
just
funding.
That's not designated for something. So we could use it to get this grant writer.
Bring us a resolution. Sounds like a great thing.
Yes, sir. Resolution coming back at the October 24th meeting.
Yes, sir. Anybody else got anything on that one?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Any information and correspondence?
I just have one
Sure.
recent updates why I wasn't in the agenda. I have been successful in making contact and made available Brightspeed's Virginia point of contact. I had conversations with Mr. Dillon today, no relations to her family. So the things I've been looking for, they're going to provide, such as coverage maps and anything they can tell us about the project. Also included inviting them here, because as I shared with them, other ISPs have come before the board. It's good for the governing body. It's good for the general public to know what's your portion of the project. Show me that. So we can fully complement our website and information we share with the public. Ms. Turner gets probably 2 or 3 calls a week folks in that particular area, like Kinderhook and Hood and Wolftown, who's going to provide me? Mr. Henry left, but REC, I know, sent some mailings to residents in that area and informed them they would not be part of the Firefly project. Of course, when you see that, your natural inclination is, well, who's going to bring me broadband, excuse me. So we are working on that. So again, we have a comprehensive information on our website that's not just the RISE project, which is Firefly, because they're not the only provider in the area. So we still get monthly reports. I did send that letter, you may recall, to Department of Housing and Community Development about our concerns and response and lack of performance. The response I got back from Dr. Holmes was they have shared concerns with Brightspeed in that they have shown some improvement on their September report. So I still continue to share concerns with what's in their project Gantt chart. That's part of that MOU. But DHCD is the deciding body on that. So at least we've turned the page. I got a point of contact. I'll be excited when we get the information we can put on the website. And they also will offer the same service with the Firefly project. If we get a resident that says, hey, I live at 112 Elm Street, am I included? We'll send that off to the ISP. Hey, 112 Elm Street, are they in your project? They'll send us back a response. A lot of times they'll zoom in with a coverage map that verifies that, and we pass that along to the citizens. So hand-holding is needed, not only for those who are getting the questions, but for the whole process, because there's been a lot of timeline between when VATI was approved and the various rounds of VATI and are folks being covered or not, so.
People fairly congenial when they're calling you, Kim? Are they fairly congenial and friendly, but eager?
For the most part.
Good, good. Yeah, and there you go, that's the way to be.
Hey, I got one more
Please.
thing, I'm sorry.
Nope.
On the front page of the Culpeper paper, did anybody see that today? The Culpeper Star Exponent, it was talking about the group they're getting a petition together to explore the constitutionality of Madison's school board banning those books. Check the paper, read the paper. But on the second page of the paper, it said that a petition is being circulated and it's coming to the Board of Supervisors of Madison to task the county attorney to pursue this thing. Well, I got a call from one of the people that is involved in the petition, and I said, no, this is not a Board of Supervisors job. If it's my only vote, I'm saying you take it to the school board council. They've got an attorney. It's their job. So I just wanted to, that's the first time I think I've ever spoken for everybody. But yeah, check the paper. You see that in.
Yeah,
So-
just the newspaper. I think it's the people that are putting together.
Huh? There was an event at Revelations last Sunday a week ago, maybe. Anyhow. So,
There you go.
if we get that petition, I assume it'll come to you, but I have no appetite to have our county attorney do that. It's not our issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, we're all on the same page. Send it to the school board. Any other information and correspondence? Yeah, all right, just go. As everybody knows, there was a bomb threat earlier at the school. They had dogs come in, cleared the school. It looks like the school handled it appropriately, and the sheriff's office came. They had basically 4 minutes of response time to get there. They do think it was organized by kind of one of these online hacking type of groups. Multiple other school divisions across the nation got hit with the exact same thing. It doesn't dilute the seriousness of a bomb threat ever. The schools are working with the sheriff's office to come up with some procedures, some additional procedures on this. But it seems like both parties handled it fairly responsibly, got the kids back to school in an effective time frame and safe time frame, and everybody's got things under control. So thought it was worth saying. Any other information and correspondence? All right, public comment. Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I just kind of don't understand what happened. You guys voted so quickly to go ahead and renew the contract with Updike. I mean, you don't even have to do that yet. You know, you've got until January or February. Do you just have no interest in finding out whether or not there's somebody that's more forthcoming or helpful? I mean, actually, you know, his presentation was pretty good, although it didn't give us much details. I feel like there are a lot of questions about their reliability and what's actually the final disposition of the stuff that we put in our recycling containers. And I don't understand why you just voted so quickly to renew the contract ahead of time.
All right.
Are you gonna tell me?
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I met with, when Updike was, prior to Updike being awarded the contract, during 5 years ago now, met with Jack Hobbs, the county administrator at the time, and probably 9 or 10 different vendors out at the transfer station. Every one of those vendors was there to listen to the preliminary RFP for solicitation of bids. Every one of them seemed like they were very eager to bid on it. We got 1 bid, and that was from Updike. The size of our transfer station is very small, as we all know, and we're out kind of in the middle of nowhere. I don't see any reason to go out and kind of cut our own nose off at this point with the way costs are at this point. Everything that is being bid or being priced seems like, at least in my experience, is way up from where it was last year. Not even talking about 5 years ago.
That was
This
5
is-
years ago, though.
Yeah, oh
You know,
yeah.
So things could have changed since then. Isn't there any way to find out ahead of time whether or not somebody's serious about making a bid?
No.
There isn't.
This is,
Okay.
we are government. We have an open RFP process where we can't pick, we can't choose, we can't solicit. We open it up to everybody so everybody has a fair shake like we did 5 years ago. This is one that try to mitigate potential risk and costs that are associated. Updike, they've hired a worker out there, which everybody seems satisfied with. I don't know if I ever remember that before, to this degree. Even on Facebook, people are saying this guy's doing a great job. I'm glad that he's out there. I'm glad that he's doing a great job. Hopefully he'll stick with us. This is one where, at least the way I'm looking at it, is trying to kind of guarantee cost instead of opening up a door.
And Updike has satisfied any questions we've had, any problems we've had. You know, I think tonight he answered as many questions as he could possibly answer for the group. I didn't see him trying to wiggle out of anything or say the wrong thing. So, you know, to go out and seek somebody else might cost us double. And the county just, you know, the county can't afford that.
Mhm. But what if, well, why can't we at least renegotiate their contract so that they can tell us the final disposition of our...
Have to open it up for an RFP. That would be a new contract. It would have to be an open procurement.
Well, my impression from the lady, Sandy from CHA, is that this information, final disposition of these things has to be reported to the state.
Sure.
To me, that means it's public. So why wouldn't we not be able to get that information? Why wouldn't Updike be forthcoming about it?
Which, they're vendors?
Where our stuff is actually ending up.
Well, he said that he couldn't divulge his vendors, and that's where it ultimately ends up, is with the vendors.
I think everybody up here, if we had been getting from Ms. Warner, multiple sets of reports of failures or deficiencies that were at the transfer station, both with the methane from the previous landfill and the handling of trash, both recyclables and non-recyclables, then this would be a different conversation up here. We are not getting those reports. They are in compliance. And he did. I mean, he answered all kind of questions. I think that, well, that was pretty good of him.
Well, I think it's his job.
Oh, it is.
You know,
Absolutely.
It's good of him to do his job.
That's correct.
But I think that I think there's a lot of information that he didn't give us. And you heard concerns expressed by other people besides me.
Why are we so, I mean, or why are you so concerned about where it ends up if it's being handled the proper way?
That's what I'm concerned about, that it's not being handled the proper way, and that we're not being told the truth about what's actually happening to it.
Well, he explained that, I think, as close as he could without giving his vendors' names.
I think he could have explained more.
Mr. Yao?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've been thinking about this for a while, but I mean, I gave my 3 reasons why I wanted to continue on with Updike. And at this point, I just want to lock him in before he changes his mind.
What would happen if Updike canceled on their part? What would happen to the county? I mean, we're not the only small county in Virginia.
Hammond?
Be a close reading of their contractual obligations, whether they're meeting the notice requirements, and then, you know, we mitigate our damage by going with somebody else, and then turning it Updike to try to pay the difference. But, you know, that's got its own costs associated with that.
So it's
Yeah.
basically, they're getting rid of our stuff, and we're paying a reasonable price for it. So let's just stick with it.
Yeah.
That's our feeling.
100%.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Sure. In your name one more time, I apologize. Thank you.
I totally agree that his presentation was very good, and they are doing a great job. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a contract. I do feel that it is the responsibility of the county administrators and the board to know where our material's going. With them saying that they can't divulge their vendors, I disagree. That there are, solid waste is it's a small community, but it's a large community. There are only certain places that solid waste can go, MSW. There are permitted facilities that waste can go to, and recyclable materials, there are certain vendors. There's a grocery list of them that they could have contracts with. We're not asking for them to divulge their contract terms with their vendors. We're just asking to know where the materials are going. So for example, if we say where are your tires going, so if in today's society, there are issues with tires. The whole state of Virginia, there's a tire problem because 2 power plants in North Carolina didn't renew the interface. So all the tires that were being recycled, that were taken to North Carolina, they're now having to find a home for them. So it would be interesting to know what happened to the tires. It would be interesting to know what happened to the other materials in the county. And I'd say that respectfully. If, heaven forbid, there were an issue at a landfill, whether it's King George County, King Queen County, Shoesmith Brothers, because they're, 74, 85, 106 miles away from here. If they had issues at their landfill for contamination, if they had issues for leachate, if they had issues for any numerous reasons, if somebody in the county were to say, hey, board supervisors, where's our trash going? If they had contamination issues, it would be nice to say, okay, well, we know that some of our materials go to these locations. At least we would know and would have some assurance that our materials either go here or go here or go here. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do the contract. I'm saying that it would be nice And I think it would be in your best interest, or even the county's interest, to perhaps do an addendum or look at that to find out where the materials are going. Respectfully.
Thank you.
If you don't mind.
Please.
And I totally understand, and it would be great to have full transparency on all this. I think there's sort of a scope here that we have to, I mean, think about how many contracts the county has. And then we put in things in contracts that say, you know, some of them are statutorily required about, you know, you're not gonna have, you're gonna obey these certain codes in order to fulfill your contract, or you're gonna hire this, you know, there's restrictions on, you know, illegal immigration and hiring those. And this county just doesn't have the manpower to check in on every contract and ensure every step along the way it's being followed precisely. So if we do find out that there are issues, then we will, I think, absolutely work to address them. I think the hard part is, unless people want a lot higher taxes, the ability to try to follow up on every single contract and make sure they're doing it just the way we want is a really hard task. I don't know if that, but I totally understand I mean, because you're talking about an important environmental concern, so I understand.
I realize that I'm not asking for increase. I mean, you know, I live here too, so, you know, I wouldn't want, costs to elevate. And and their prices that they set, I mean, they, you know, they're saying it's $106 a ton. You know, I think we said 86 or 80 some dollars a ton.
Yeah, 80, yeah. 82.
82.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Yeah.
price for trash right now. And recyclables, I mean, it does cost a lot more to
Oh, yeah.
recycle than it does to throw something away. But we don't want to just throw it away because it's cheaper. We don't want to do that. We do want to do a better job at it. But it would just be, I don't know, I just felt that he was very evasive, and it was easy to sit on the, I can't divulge my contact name. And I do know staff is short in the county.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Other public comment? Anybody? Ah, good, yes.
I think it pertains to the whole recycling.
I would
think it's
guess.
From someone's initials are KH.
Ah,
To the best of my knowledge, the share shed is operating without any known issues.
great.
We have dedicated groups of volunteers working there weekly and a few other citizens who clean because it simply needs to be clean. Still doing random purges of prohibited items.
Well, that is good. The share shed is working well.
I assume KH is probably
Probably,
Khalil
that's
Hassan.
Khalil, yeah, probably.
Khalil
Yeah,
Hassan,
and
yeah.
him and his group, they go out there, they clean it up, they get rid of them. I saw a picture last week, they had a bunch of books, they put them on shelves, look terrific. Hopefully people take the books.
If they're not banned.
Yeah, that is correct. All right, any other public comment? We do have a closed session, thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman, I.
Please, yes, sir.
This has been beaten to death.
No,
I wanna
please.
beat a few more strokes.
By all means.
Mr. Wright, to your knowledge, to the best of your knowledge, do you see any areas of non-compliance by our trash handling contractors with regard to non-compliance of any state or federal statutes?
Nothing about what I learned tonight gave me that concern.
Okay, well then, I feel that we've done our due diligence as a county with regard to regulation. What happens downstream is beyond our control, and it is regulated by other state and federal agencies. And I don't know whether any of these folks ever dealt with the EPA or DEQ, but they really need to. And they will find out just what they will do to you if you are non-compliant on one of these issues.
Right.
So the county is doing, I think it's done its due diligence on this issue.
Thank you, Jim. Other public comment? Other comments? All right, closed session, please.
So, oops. I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, and 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same sign. You don't mind 5 minutes?
Okay.
Yes.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Hey. Are you? 8-pack, 12-pack, why not get a 24-pack? No.
Thank you very
So,
much.
what do we do with that?
You have done that since you have.
I would like to do it.
See, that's it. Somebody put him out in the, I'm not a grown. I made brownies last night. I didn't buy them, I know what you said. Ones in a little package.
You actually made them out of like a.
Yeah, man.